Good evening, everyone. I'm your storyteller, and tonight I'll take you into online dates that turn into pure horror. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where and when you're watching. Now, prepare yourself for the fear that lies ahead. Episode 1: The Man Standing Under the Streetlight. If you've ever heard footsteps echoing right behind you on an empty street, you'll know how it makes your skin crawl. I know it well because I once survived such a night when I came to believe that humans can be far more terrifying than any ghost out there. That night, the October wind cut like ice. The damp smell from the roadside trees clung to the air like the breath of an abandoned cellar. I lived in the suburbs of Newark, New Jersey, where the days were still noisy with children running, cars in lines, but at night it was silent enough to freeze the soul. Only the flickering yellow streetlights remained, casting broken rays over cracked sidewalks. I walked alone, my shoes making soft clop-clop sounds. Each sound echoed back into my ears, making it seem like someone was walking behind me. I reassured myself, "It's just the echo, Emily." But in truth, I never felt at ease in the dark. I still remember the acrid sting of cigarette smoke someone had just exhaled from a nearby alley, burning my throat raw like it had been scraped. I only meant to stop by the convenience store to pick up a few things for breakfast. Just a 10-minute walk, and yet it felt so long. At one point, I stopped, slipping a hand into my coat pocket, fingers brushing my phone, as if just pressing call would mean rescue. But the cold pierced through my gloves, seeping into my bones, and I didn't want to take it out. When I turned onto the third street, I saw him. A man stood still beneath a streetlight, right where the glow spilled into a patchy circle. His shadow stretched across the asphalt, jagged and distorted. His hair was disheveled, his black coat crumpled. He stood there, unmoving, like stone. I didn't hear footsteps, didn't hear breathing, only the chilling weight of his presence. My heart raced. It felt as though an invisible cord was tightening around my throat. I didn't know why I didn't just turn back. Instead, I kept walking, my eyes searching desperately for signs of life, a passing car, a late walker, anyone. But the street was utterly deserted. The closer I came, the clearer his face became. His eyes were wide, unnaturally bright, like reflecting light, his gaze fixed on me, unblinking. I thought I caught in the wind a faint murmur, like a prayer or a whisper, but I couldn't make it out. All I knew was that it sent an icy jolt down my spine. I swallowed hard, a metallic taste rising in my throat, as if blood lingered in the air. I told myself maybe he was just a homeless man or someone lost. But instinct screamed, "Run, Emily!" Then he spoke. "Could you help me?" His voice was hoarse, low, but oddly, it didn't match his eyes. Those eyes were too tense, too bright, like they were suppressing some hunger. I stopped, just a few meters away. My breath came ragged, each gust hissing through my nose. 100 scenarios flashed in my mind. If I turned back, he'd chase me. If I stepped forward, I'd fall into his arms. I was trapped between two choices. That night I didn't yet know. My next decision would save me, and also reveal his true nature, something more frightening than any ghost I'd ever dreamed in nightmares. He stepped forward. The scrape of his shoes against the pavement rang heavy, like a hammer on metal. I backed away, my heart pounding so hard it deafened me. "What do you need?" I asked, voice trembling, trying to keep distance. The man lowered his head, hair covering most of his face, though his eyes still glared, glowing strangely under the sickly yellow light. Slowly, he said, "I am lost. show me, the way home. I scrambled for a reason to refuse. My throat was parched, a bitter taste spreading on my tongue, like biting into green orange peel. I don't really know where you want to go. Maybe you should call someone. He lifted his head, gave a thin smile. His teeth were stained, and I caught a stench, like rusty iron, like dried blood long forgotten. A shudder ran through me. I don't have a phone. Will you come with me? He stepped closer again. I stepped back. This time, I felt his breath against me. Hot, damp, acrid, like scorched meat. My hands went icy. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked, letting out only frantic gasps. Sorry, I can't. I turned, walking faster. But instantly, a rough hand seized my arm. A sharp cry burst from me. His grip clamped my skin, searing pain, burning pressure. His hand was like an iron vise, nails digging through my coat. Don't leave me. His voice was low, pressed into my ear, begging yet icy, like a command. I struggled, shaking violently. My nails scratched his skin, only making his grip tighten. I heard the faint crack of my own joints. In panic, I saw a house up ahead with its lights on, just a few dozen meters away. Hope flared. Summoning every ounce of strength, I tore my arm free and sprinted. Heavy footsteps thundered behind me. He was chasing. The pounding echoed through the night. His breathing grew louder, surging down my neck. I ran, heart tearing against my chest. The night air stabbed my lungs, each breath a slice of knives. Weeds lashed my legs, leaving their pungent scent clinging to my nose. I didn't dare look back, but I knew he was right there. The lit house came into view. I hammered the door, hands trembling, joints screaming. Help me, please open the door. Inside, the scrape of a chair, the shuffle of old feet. The door cracked open. An old man with silver hair in a worn sweater appeared. His eyes widened in shock at me. What's going on, child? There's someone chasing me. Please let me in. I nearly sobbed. He looked past me. I glanced back too. The street was empty. No one, no sound. Only the hiss of wind through trees and the flicker of a dying streetlight. I gasped, tears streaming, my heart in chaos. The old man frowned, then stepped aside, gesturing. Come in, quick. I rushed inside, slamming the door shut. But standing in the musty old living room, the reek of damp wood thick, I realized something was wrong. The house was too quiet, too dim, even though the ceiling light was on. And the old man's eyes on me weren't compassionate. They were cold, piercing, identical to the gaze of the man beneath the streetlight. He slammed the door. The metallic clang resounded in the dark, damp room. I froze, breath ragged, only to notice his eyes fixed on me. Not pity, not concern, but slow, icy like a cat watching a trapped bird. The living room stank of rotting wood, mixed with kerosene from an old lamp. I licked my lips, tasting salt of sweat and tears. Every sense screamed. I could hear even the tick-tock of a pendulum clock, each beat like a hammer to my temple. I was just chased by a strange man, I stammered. Can you call the police for me? The old man didn't answer. He only crept closer, each step heavy on the creaking floor. He stopped right in front of me, close enough that his breath washed over me, reeking, tinged with dried blood. Then he smiled, a long, twisted smile. You think stepping in here makes you safe? My throat clenched. A chill raced down my spine. My heart pounded wildly. He went on, his voice rasping like a whisper from a dark cupboard. What you saw under the streetlight may never have existed, but here. He tapped his chest. Thump, thump, thump. Evil truly stands before you. I backed up, my spine hitting the wall. The chill of the wood bit through my coat into my flesh. I searched for escape, but the windows were boarded shut, the front door locked behind me. The house was a sealed box. What? What do you want? My voice trembled like a thread about to snap. He didn't answer. He only stepped closer. I felt his rough hand brush my wrist. His skin was icy, dry as bark. I burst into tears, yanking away, lunging for the door. The knob rattled uselessly, locked tight with a rusted bolt. I pounded it, sound booming but pointless. Behind me, his footsteps dragged slowly, deliberately, like a predator savoring its prey's panic. "You know." His whisper slithered against my nape as I clawed at the door. I've waited so long for someone to walk in. Suddenly, a metallic click. The door swung open. Cold wind rushed in, heavy with night damp. Without thinking, I bolted, sprinting into the black street. I didn't look back, but the rasping laugh behind me rang on, echoing with the wind. By the time I got home, my body shook violently. Sweat, dirt, night air clung to me. I locked the door tight, collapsed on the floor, gasping. One question whirled in my head. The man under the streetlight, was he real, or just bait to lead me into that house? And the old man, human or something else wearing human skin? That night, I couldn't sleep. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw those glowing eyes beneath the streetlight, and the old man's twisted smile. Perhaps demons never need to appear at all. Just one human with a warped mind is enough to make the dark unbearable. Episode 2. The Car That Never Turned Off. My name is Michael Reed, 32 years old, an office worker at an insurance company in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio. People often say, an evening walk helps clear the mind. I used to believe that too. But after that night, I no longer have the courage to step outside once it gets dark. That evening, I had just left my desk after 10 straight hours of staring at a computer screen. My eyes burned. The bridge of my nose felt dry. I needed to breathe, to move, and the step-counting wristband on my arm was blinking impatiently, reminding me I was still nearly 3,000 steps short of my daily goal. I laced up my sneakers, put on a windbreaker, and stepped outside. It was about 10 o'clock at night. The November air slapped cold against my face, carrying the musty smell of rotting leaves mixed with chimney smoke from houses still lit inside. I could clearly hear the dry leaves rustling in the wind along the path, blended with the distant barking of a dog in someone's backyard. The street where I lived was usually quiet. Houses stood close together, their porches hung with yellow lights spilling onto grass wet with dew. I walked slowly, counting each step along the cracked pavement. My breathing and footsteps merged into a steady rhythm, easing the tension in my head. But then, somewhere behind me, I heard a sound. At first, very faint, like an engine idling in the wrong place. I thought maybe someone had just come home late, or a neighbor was starting their car, but the sound lingered, slow, heavy. Then 2 beams of headlights appeared on the empty road. A car was approaching. It moved very slowly. So slowly I could hear the crunch of gravel under its wheels, each rotation dragging forward. I stepped aside, expecting it to pass, but it didn't. It just crept right behind me. I swallowed hard. A cold weight spread through my stomach. I tried walking faster, putting some distance between us, but the engine stayed steady behind me, not too far, not too close, like a mechanical shadow. I turned my head. The headlights blinded me. I couldn't see the driver's face, only a dark window pane like still water. Inside, there seemed to be a figure sitting motionless. My throat burned dry. I tried to reassure myself. Maybe he's just looking for an address. It has nothing to do with me. But when I turned onto another street, the car turned too. I caught a whiff of gasoline in the air. It grew stronger, mixing with the smell of rotting leaves into a nauseating stench. I glanced around. The whole neighborhood was deserted. No one out here but me and the car. The pale, yellow streetlights stretched my shadow across the sidewalk, and right beside it, the warped silhouette of the car, rolling alongside. I started to realize, tonight I had stepped into a game I never wanted to play. I turned onto the next street, walking faster now, my palms damp with sweat despite the biting cold. The car followed, always the same distance behind. The engine's drone echoed in the empty space like a foreign heartbeat pounding in my ears. I tried stopping. The car stopped too. Silence. No one stepped out. Only the steady growl of the engine like the raspy breathing of some large beast in the dark. I walked again. It rolled forward again, keeping pace with me as if we were marching together in some sick play. The cold from my feet climbed up my spine. I swallowed hard, bitter as aspirin, clinging to my tongue. Up ahead, the faint glow of my home appeared, just a few streets away. I told myself, "Hang on, Michael, just get home." As I turned onto the road leading to my block, the car suddenly cut its headlights. Darkness collapsed around me, thick as tar, but the wheels still rolled. I couldn't see any more, only hear, and that made it worse. I ran. My shoes smacked the pavement in uneven thuds, tangled with the groaning engine right behind. I bolted up to my porch, heart hammering, keys trembling in my hand. But just as I touched the lock, the headlights flared back on, scorching white light blasting across my back, flooding the entire doorway. I twisted the key, flung the door open, rushed inside and slammed it shut. In the taut silence, I pressed my ear to the wood. Outside, the engine still roared. I could feel its vibration humming through the floor, faint but unmistakable. Then, silence. I drew a deep breath, chest aching. Maybe he had left. I switched on the living room light, the warm glow softening the space a little. I dropped onto the sofa, sweat soaking my back. My ears still rang from the pounding of my heart. Then I heard it. A click at the window, metal against glass. I snapped around. The curtain swayed gently. I crept closer, trembling, and pulled it aside just a sliver. In the yard, the car sat parked right at the entrance near the porch. The lights were off, but the engine still ran, white smoke curling from the exhaust. The stench of raw fuel seeped through the window cracks, choking me. Its shadow sprawled across the wall, distorted, as if crawling inside. I let the curtain fall, backing away. Goosebumps erupted across my skin. I forced myself to think, "Calm down, call the police." I pulled out my phone. But just as the screen lit up, the whole house shuddered once. A bang came from the garage. My blood froze. I never opened the garage. Step by step, I crept toward the kitchen where there was a window overlooking the garage. My heartbeat thudded so loud I could hear blood rushing in my ears. I peered through the frosted glass. The car was inside. It sat neatly in the garage, lights off, engine rumbling softly, like a beast curled in its den. My throat locked tight. I wasn't sure anymore if I was awake or dreaming. I staggered back, hitting the dining table, knocking a glass to the floor. It shattered, the sound echoing through the house. And immediately, the engine roared. White smoke poured in thick, seeping through cracks, the acrid stench of burning fuel choking me. My eyes stung. Through the haze, I saw something stir behind the windshield. A black figure sat motionless in the driver's seat, its face completely hidden. He was inside my house. No need to break doors. No trace left behind, as if he already knew the way in. The fumes spread through every crevice. Gasoline mixed with melting plastic, burning my throat raw, making my eyes sting with salt. I stumbled back toward the living room, hands shaking around my phone. The screen glared, but my fingers were frozen, unable to dial emergency. The engine droned on, low, steady, relentless. Then, a clack. The garage door opened. Hinges squealed long and sharp like a muffled scream. I stood frozen, cold sweat flooding down my spine. From the dark, the car rolled out, slow, predatory, like a beast leaving its lair. Its headlights snapped on, white beams cutting straight through the living room window, slicing across my face. I looked around frantically. No way out. The front door was blocked. The car waited there. The back door was locked. The key left in the kitchen now filled with choking fumes. The tires grated over the concrete, rattling the frame. The car crawled closer, step by step, until it stopped right at the porch. Silence. I held my breath, pressing flat against the wall. My heart slammed against my ribs, louder than the engine itself. Then, suddenly, a figure rose behind the windshield. He turned his head toward me. Even through the glare, I saw them, black, empty eyes, cold as bottomless pits. I screamed, bolting upstairs, feet hammering the wooden steps that groaned with every strike. I burst into the bedroom, locked the door, and pressed my back against it. Below, the engine roared, shaking the floorboards. Then silence, stillness, a crushing stillness heavy as stone on my chest. I pressed my ear to the door, straining. No footsteps, no door creak, only my own frantic breath. I crept to the window, pulled the curtain back, empty. The yard was bare, the car was gone, no smoke, no trace, as if it had never been there. I collapsed, hands covering my face. My whole body shook. A metallic taste filled my mouth. I had bitten my lip so hard I bled without noticing. I whispered like a lunatic, "Not real. It can't be real." But when I turned in the mirror across from the bed, I saw it. The black car, clear in the reflection. Headlights blazing. And in the driver's seat, the figure still sat, unmoving, its eyes fixed straight on me. I spun around. The room was empty, but in the mirror, the car remained. When the headlights flared, I understood some things don't need to roll on roads. They run in the dark, in the mind, chasing their prey to the deepest refuge. From that night on, I never dared to walk after dark again. Not because I fear ghosts, but because I know some cars never turn off, and some drivers will never stop searching until the moment I open the door once more. Episode 3. The Ride Not Booked in Advance. My name is Sarah Miller. I am 27 years old, living with my boyfriend David Collins in a small apartment in downtown Chicago. If there is one thing I have learned after all of this, it is this. Just because you step into a car that looks familiar doesn't mean it will take you home. There are rides that, once you sit in, you will never see the light of morning again. That night, light rain fell over the city. Tiny drops hit the pavement, reflecting neon lights from the street shops, smearing into streaks like spreading blood. David and I had just strolled along the river, exhausted after a long day. We only wished to return to the hotel quickly, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. David opened the ride-hailing app. He frowned at the screen. "There's a car nearby. It'll be here in about 10 minutes. We stood under an awning, breathing in the smell of car exhaust mixed with fried oil from street food stalls. Car horns blared from afar, blending with the howling wind slipping through tall buildings. I shivered. It was cold, and in the air lingered something strange, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Not even 5 minutes later, a silver-gray van stopped in front of us. The windows were pitch black, headlights a sickly yellow. The driver didn't roll down the glass, only gave a slight nod. David turned to me. "It's here." We didn't check the app, didn't ask for a name. We simply opened the back door and stepped in. The smell inside hit me immediately, so strong it twisted my stomach. It was like chlorine mixed with something raw and metallic. I tried to breathe through my mouth, but then my tongue tasted the faint metallic tang of blood. David sat beside me, too tired to notice. I glanced at the driver through the rearview mirror. He said nothing, didn't greet us. His face was mostly swallowed by shadow, only a thin nose bridge and a rigid jaw visible. The van rolled forward, tires hissing softly on the wet pavement. The air inside was suffocatingly heavy. The only sound the dry scrape of the wipers across glass, like blades striking it again and again. I pulled out my phone and checked the app. My heart sank. On the screen, our real ride was still on the way. The notification clear. "Your driver is 3 minutes away. Please wait at the pickup point." I turned to David, whispering hoarsely, "David, this isn't our car." He looked at me, his face pale. Together, we looked up at the mirror. The driver's eyes flicked down at us, a hard, hateful glance, sticking for just a second too long. The van accelerated, veering off the main road, plunging into a dark street where most of the lamps were broken. Inside, the chlorine stench thickened, burning my chest. I knew then we had stepped into the wrong ride, one that might never stop where we wanted. The van tore through a narrow street where dead lamp posts and tangled wires loomed. Wind shrieked through them like funeral horns. Rain still misted down, the damp, earthy smell seeping through the cracks in the window. I gripped David's hand. His palm was ice cold, trembling faintly. The air grew dense, suffocating. The seats were torn, yellow stuffing spilling out, some patches stained with dark blotches, like dried blood. David lowered his voice, barely audible. "Sarah, stay calm. Don't let him suspect. We need to get out of this car now." I nodded, throat dry as sandpaper. Through the mirror, I saw him. His eyes kept glancing up, cold and empty as pits. No question, no greeting, no confirmation of destination. He just drove, detached, yet fully aware we had realized something was terribly wrong. I mustered my voice. "Excuse me, could you stop here? We want to get out." No response, only the ceaseless screech of wipers, like nails scratching glass. His hands clutched the wheel, knuckles turning white. My throat tightened, my heartbeat quickened. I squeezed David's hand harder. David inhaled sharply, leaning forward. "Hey, we want to get out, right now." The driver didn't turn back. He just chuckled, lips curling faintly. The sound was raspy, dry, echoing in the damp cabin. Then the van surged faster, deeper into an area I had never seen. Abandoned warehouses, rusted steel doors, weeds overrunning the streets. I heard the engine growl, blending with the raw stench of gasoline, twisting my stomach. My throat gagged, the metallic tang filling every breath. I was almost certain we weren't the first passengers in this van. David whispered, lips trembling, "I've got a knife in my pocket. If he doesn't stop—" I held my breath, heart racing wildly. His face in the mirror grew larger, distorted in my vision. Deep-set eyes, skin pale and unnatural. He looked nothing like a normal driver. His shadow reflected on the windshield, grotesque and stretched, like something not of this world. The road ahead was pitch black. No signs, no lights. As if we were being taken somewhere. That didn't exist on any map. I hissed through clenched teeth, David, if we don't act now, we'll disappear." The man laughed again, louder this time, a hissing rasp that merged with the engine's roar, making every hair on my neck stand up. We knew our only choice was to escape, before the van reached his chosen destination. David leaned close, slipping his hand into his coat pocket. I saw a glint of steel, the small folding knife he always carried. My chest clenched, breath stuck. I knew we had just one chance. The van swerved sharply around a bend, darkness engulfing both sides. Crumbling warehouses with black iron doors loomed like gaping maws, waiting to swallow us whole. Gasoline and chlorine still hung thick, clinging to our skin, burning down our throats with bitter sting. I inhaled sharply, forcing courage into my lungs. "Stop! I said stop the car now!" I screamed. The driver didn't answer. His arm twisted the wheel, joints cracking. His eyes locked onto mine in the mirror, cold and soulless. David flicked open the knife, voice low and sharp. "I swear, if you don't stop right now—" For the first time, he spoke, his voice gravelly, low, as if rising from the grave. "Get out? There are no stops here." He pressed the accelerator. The engine roared, the van trembling violently. I shrieked, clutching the seat. In a flash, David leaned forward, pressing the blade against his neck through the gap in the seat. "Stop. Right now." A second of suffocating tension. His eyes flicked to the mirror, a violent glint flashing. Then, screech! The brakes locked. Tires screamed against wet pavement, a shrill sound tearing the night. I slammed the door open, pulling David out. We stumbled into the dark street, splashing through puddles. Behind us, the engine roared again. Headlights flared, our shadows stretching long on the ground. He accelerated, the van lunging at us like a beast unleashed. "Run!" David yanked me forward. We bolted into a narrow alley, brick walls damp with moss on both sides. The van screeched past the entrance, tires skidding. Then, silence. A pause. The van reversed slowly, headlights sweeping across the alley where we hid. I pressed against the wall, barely breathing. The stench of moldy bricks filled my nose, suffocating. The light swept past, then stopped. I heard him chuckle, a dry, grinding laugh, scraping into the alley like metal dragged on stone. Then the van rolled away, disappearing around a bend. Silence returned. David and I collapsed onto the wet ground, trembling, clutching each other. Neither of us dared to speak, only listening to the patter of rain. After a long while, we staggered to the main road, flagged a real taxi. The driver gave us a puzzled look, seeing our soaked clothes and pale faces. The next day, we went to the police, describing the van and the man. But it was useless. No cameras had caught it. No one in the area had seen a silver gray van. Sometimes, at night, sitting in the living room, I still hear the low hum of an engine in the distance, slowly drawing near. I don't dare look out the window. I know. There are rides that are never booked in advance, and once you sit in, you remain a passenger in the dark forever. Episode 4. The Shadow Chaser in the Park. My name is Ethan Parker, 30 years old, a physical education teacher in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I used to think I was familiar with the dark, used to strange sounds in the night. But after that night, just walking past the park makes my legs go weak like someone who has just escaped death. That night, I went out for a late run. The whole day stuck at school with noisy students made my head heavy as stone. I believed a few laps around the park would ease the pressure. The December night air was cold, carrying the scent of damp pine and the earthy smell after rain. The wind rustled through the trees, sprinkling down a carpet of decayed leaves thick to my ankles. My shoes crunched on the dry leaves, mixed with my ragged breaths. The park stretched vast and empty, no one else but me. The night sky was covered by black clouds, leaving only a few dim, yellow streetlights to illuminate patches of ground. That light wasn't enough to chase away the darkness. It only made the shadows deeper, like holes that could swallow anything that stepped into them. I ran while keeping my ears open, hearing my heartbeat, hearing droplets fall from branches. And then another sound slipped in. Thud, thud, thud. Footsteps, not mine. At first, I thought someone else was running. But the rhythm was strange. It wasn't fast, it wasn't slow. It always kept the exact same distance behind me. Whether I sped up or slowed down, the footsteps followed, like a shadow. My throat tightened. I turned my head, but the streetlight only revealed gray trees and dense night. No one there, just the empty park. I kept running, heart pounding wildly. But the footsteps returned, closer this time. They crunched on the dry leaves, sharp and deliberate, as if someone wanted me to hear. A cold wind scraped the back of my neck, carrying the musty smell of moss and wet earth. I shivered, feeling someone breathing just behind my shoulder. I stopped, spun around and shouted, "Who's there?" Silence, only leaves drifting in the wind. I swallowed hard, chest aching. Then, in the deep darkness between two trees, I saw a shadow. It stood still, tall and thin, faceless, just a darker mass than the night around it. For a moment I knew it wasn't an illusion. It was watching me. And it stepped out from the tree's shadow, merging into my own under the yellow light. I froze, ears ringing, heart pounding as if tearing my chest apart. The shadow didn't move, yet every hair on my body bristled. It lingered at the edge of the light, as if deciding whether to step in. Then it moved. One step, slow, long, heavy. The dry leaves crackled under its invisible feet. I staggered backward, my heels sliding on rotting leaves, the damp smell of moss stabbing my nose, suffocating. I tried to shout, voice cracking, "Who are you? I'm warning you." No reply. Only the shadow took another step, its warped body, stretching under the lamp. It merged completely with my shadow. For a fleeting second, my back froze as if pressed by someone standing against me. Panicked, I bolted. My footsteps pounded loud against the leaves, but then the terrible sound echoed again behind me. Thud, thud, thud. It ran, perfectly in sync with me, but heavier, more forceful, like a giant chasing at my heels. Each step of mine was devoured by its echo. Sweat poured, mixing with the night's icy air. I smelled the salty tang of my own skin, the metallic taste of blood where I had bitten my lip. My breath tore out ragged, lungs burning. But no matter how far I ran, the shadow stayed with me. I risked a glance back. In the dim light, it was running right behind me. No face, no detail, only a black outline. But it moved exactly like me, every swing of the arm, every stride. It wasn't just chasing me, it was mimicking me. A choking panic filled my chest. I rushed toward the park's pond. The water was black, reflecting faint golden glimmers from the remaining lamps. I stopped, panting, thinking at least the water might show me what it really was. But in the water there was only one reflection. Mine. I trembled, gasping. My throat was dry. I turned back. No one there. Just the empty path, leaves fluttering. Only the wind howling through bare branches. I bent toward the pond again, staring at my reflection. And then the shadow in the water smiled, a crooked grin stretching from ear to ear, while my real face was frozen in terror. My heart clenched as if crushed. I stumbled back, slipping into the damp leaves, and at that instant, footsteps echoed again, right behind me, so close I felt cold breath burning my nape. I fell, hands clawing at wet leaves. The chill seeped through my shirt, stabbing into my skin like needles. My heart lodged in my throat, choking me. Behind me, the footsteps stopped. Silence. Only the soft lap of water against the shore, its fishy stench mingling with damp earth. I shivered, turned my head. The shadow stood there. On the shore, less than an arm's length away. Taller than me, thin, pitch black. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a solid, dark mass. Yet I felt it staring straight at me. I scrambled up, backing toward the pond. Darkness thickened around me, the lamps glowing a sickly yellow, unable to pierce its faceless form. I shouted, my voice breaking, "What do you want?" The shadow gave no answer. It leaned toward me, slow, eerie, like a mirror reflecting me, but slightly wrong. A faint, burnt smell like scorched hair seeped from where it stood. Suddenly, it raised its arm, long, warped, sticking close to my movement, like I was being forced to replay myself, controlled by another. I panicked, sprinted for the park gate, my breath rasped, lungs aflame, eyes stinging in the cold wind, but the footsteps stayed, pounding heavy, layered over my own. Near the exit, I saw headlights from afar. Hope sparked. I screamed for help, waving, but instantly something yanked at my foot. I fell flat, my face slamming into the ground. I rolled over, the shadow loomed above me. The lamp behind cast its shape, merging it completely with my shadow on the ground. For a moment, I couldn't move my body. My arms trembled, but not by my command. My legs stiffened, glued to the earth. Then I heard a whisper. Inside my head. "I wasn't chasing you. You were the one who stepped into my shadow. Cold. Number." I screamed, but the sound strangled, reduced to sobs. The last thing I saw was the gaping grin of the shadow in the pond's reflection, its mouth stretching endlessly while my shadow was swallowed whole. When I woke, I was lying on a park bench. Morning had come. Birds chirped, sunlight streaming through the leaves. People walked around casually, no sign of anything strange. But as I stood, I noticed something. Though the sun was high, my shadow on the ground stayed completely still, while I was already walking. Episode 5. The House That Still Had Lights On. My name is Laura Bennett, 35 years old, a night shift nurse at a suburban hospital in Denver, Colorado. My job has made me accustomed to pale, fluorescent lights and empty hallways at midnight. I thought I could endure solitude, even the strange groans of patients that make others shiver and flee. But there's one thing I've never grown used to: the faint glow from the house at the end of my street. My neighborhood is quiet, mostly small families. At night, the street is usually pitch dark except for the street lamps glowing on the grass. All except for one old house at the corner. A 2-story wooden home, peeling paint, gray roof tiles, windows coated with dusty film. They said the previous owners sold long ago, no one moved in, and yet every night on my late shift, when I walk past, I see its lights on. One October evening, the air cold enough for my breath to turn white, I passed by again, and as always the second-floor window glowed with dim yellow light. But this time my heart stopped. Behind the dusty glass, there was a figure. Tall, thin, standing motionless, as if staring straight down at the street where I was. I froze, chest tight. The wind hissed through the trees, mixing with the crunch of dry leaves underfoot. The damp smell of wet grass crept into my nose, sour and metallic. Goosebumps prickled across my arms. I told myself, maybe just an illusion. Maybe it was furniture casting a shadow. But when I moved on, I saw the figure's head turn, following every step I took. It felt like an invisible rope tightening around my throat, pulling at each breath. I hurried away, not daring to look back. The next night I stole another glance. The yellow light was there, the figure too. Only difference. This time, it was pressed against the window, only a hand's span from the glass. I'm a practical person, not easily swayed by gossip. But for an entire week, every night I passed, the light burned and the figure stood still. Each night, it inched closer to the window until I could almost make out faint features through the dust. Sleep abandoned me. That window haunted my mind. I told co-workers at the hospital. They laughed. Maybe someone rented it. Don't overthink. Laura, you're working too many night shifts. Hallucinations come easy. I nodded, but I knew better. The figure's eyes, I could feel them. They were fixed on me, waiting. On the 8th night, I decided to see clearly. My shift ended at 2 a.m. I drove slowly past the street. Rain drizzled, blurring my windshield with streaky fog. I turned off the music, even the radio, so only the wipers scraped rhythmically across the glass. And there it was. The house at the corner, the sickly glow upstairs, the figure. But it wasn't still anymore. My blood iced as I watched it slowly raise a hand, pressing its palm against the glass. 5 long, pitch-black fingers printed starkly through the dust, smooth, deliberate, as if beckoning me closer. My hands clamped the steering wheel, damp with sweat. The cold air mixed with the stale scent of worn leather seats, stifling my lungs. I knew I should drive off, but my eyes refused to leave the window. In that moment, I even heard faint whispers, not sure if from outside or inside my head. Closer, come closer. My spine stiffened, gooseflesh crawling. I sped home, forcing the image away. But that night I didn't sleep. In the darkness of my bedroom, the rain tapped my window and I swore someone stood outside, staring in. The next day, I asked older neighbors. An old woman named Margaret, 2 houses away, lowered her voice as if afraid of being overheard. That place has been abandoned 15 years, ever since the family died in a fire upstairs. Power was cut long ago. No reason the lights could be on. I froze, scalp tingling. If she was right, then what I'd been seeing all week wasn't alive. That night, I made one last attempt. I didn't walk by. I drove slow, lights off, stopping a distance away. The night was silent. No rain, only damp earth and chirping insects. The window upstairs, still glowing. But this time, the figure wasn't alone. 3 silhouettes, different heights, all pressed against the glass, staring down at me. I screamed, slammed the gas, tires shrieking. In my mirror, the yellow light still blazed. And just before I turned the corner, I saw the figures step back into the room, as if patiently waiting for another night. For days, I avoided that street, but one thing terrified me more. Coming home from shifts, I always saw that same yellow glow, this time from the second-floor window of the house directly across from my apartment. That building was never rented. Its power was cut, yet every night it glowed, and I knew sooner or later the figures would cross the street to stand outside my own window. I couldn't take it. Each night I came home to see them, unmoving in the light, waiting, counting down. That night, after my shift, silence cloaked the street. No wind, no insects. The whole block drowned in darkness, except one thing. That yellow glow. I stopped my car at my door, eyes locked on the window opposite. 3 silhouettes stood closer than ever, faces almost pressed to the glass. And for the first time I saw clearly hollow sockets, pitch black, and twisted smiles. I staggered back, chest stabbing with pain. The air reeked of smoke. acrid like burnt wood. My whole body trembled. I realized, if I lingered, they wouldn't stay confined to that house. I dashed inside, slammed the door, yanked the curtains, collapsed on the sofa, only to notice something horrifying. The yellow light still seeped through the curtains. Not from outside, from upstairs. I froze. My apartment was empty. I never turned the upstairs light on. Cold sweat drenched me, heart hammering like a drum. I forced myself up the stairs. Each wooden step groaned underfoot. The smoky stench thickened, mixing with the charred tang of burning fabric. The air clung heavy, stinging my eyes. The doorknob to my upstairs room burned hot, as if fresh from fire. Trembling, I twisted it open. Yellow light poured out. Inside, 3 figures waited. No glass between us anymore. Tall, gaunt, clothes charred, skin blackened, mouths stretched into warped smiles. Their eye sockets burned red like embers. I stumbled back, lips frozen, but they didn't advance. Instead, they raised their arms, pointing together at the window. I turned. In the glass, the reflection wasn't me. It was the abandoned house across the street, blazing yellow. And in its window I stood, become the 4th figure, grinning hideously. When I spun back, the room was dark, empty, lights gone. Morning came. Neighbors claimed they saw no lights in the night. Only me. Only I saw them. But I know now. I've been marked. I no longer need to pass that house. The yellow light has followed me home. And the figure in the window already wears my face.